Okay, it's recording.
Good evening. Welcome to the Urbana Town Council meeting on this Thursday, March 14th, 2024. We have two members that are out this evening, but we do have a quorum, so we'll call to order. Beth Justice.
Here.
Larry Tuning.
Here.
The mayor is here. Mary Hanson.
Here.
Sandy Sturgill.
I'm here.
Having a quorum, let's stand to take the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'm so sorry.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Do I have a motion, in the absence of Marjorie, to accept the agenda as presented?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
I second.
The motion is moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right. Sandy Sturgill.
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
I say yes. Larry?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
All right. Minutes. We have several sets of minutes. It was a lot of good bedtime reading. I think there's, 90 pages, did you say, Martha? It's a lot. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
I move to approve the minutes of the November 16th, 2023 and December 14th, 2023 meetings.
Do I have a second on that?
I second.
Any discussion? All right. Beth?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
I say yes. Mary?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
All right, moving on to reports. Mr. Costin, if you would be so kind.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, ladies and gentlemen. You have my report in front of you, and quite frankly, for some other issues, I'm going to just ask that if you have any questions on that report, bring them forward at the end of my statement here to address two issues. The first concerns the floating dock for the marina that was purchased. I believe that was last year. I'm not too sure of the exact date. But it came to our attention that there was a unintended assumption of ownership by those that we bought it from. And so to satisfy any issues about the ownership, we have returned the dock, or have allowed the dock to be returned to the folks that we got it from once we received, and we have received, the same amount of money that we paid for the dock. So we're back to even Steven, other than we have no floating dock. Okay. The other issue, and this one has really been a lot of fun to work, has been the fireworks issue. Okay. So first, let me tell you that when I told you about this last time, that the company that we had used for many, or the town had used for many years, had failed to return my phone calls. Okay. While I was away last week, they did call, but it was not in response to my phone calls. It was a cold call to let us know, start planning for an event. And at that time, they were informed that, we'd made these phone calls. They were very apologetic. They were very, very sorry that they had missed it. They said it was on them, internal controls, whatever, their situation, but they missed the phone calls. But we had a nice dialogue, and told them that we had moved on to, now this was an Ohio-based company, so I want to distinguish this between an Ohio-based company, that we had moved on to a company out of Halifax County, Virginia. And so where we are right now, the bottom line is that the owners of the property where the launch has always been held can no longer allow the launch to be held. They have some situations with their insurance that they cannot overcome without jeopardizing their entire insurance. So basically, the insurance company told them, if you do fireworks, we're cutting you. So they just can't go through that because of the nature of the property. So we're trying to find an alternative. The mayor and I and Martha have been out We looked at a couple of sites to see about what the view would be like, and it's very difficult to find. What I have learned about pyrotechnics is for 1 inch of shell, you have to have that many feet times 100. So 3-inch shell, 300 feet of radius, which means your diameter is 600. So you've got to have a clear zone. And when they say clear zone, they mean structures, cars, boats, woods. I mean, so it's very, very hard to try to find something. A lot of folks have suggested, and we are talking to folks, we're trying to track some things down. We've had a lot of people come in and say, let me call so-and-so, let me call so-and-so. If we can kind of like make sure all that gets funneled to me so we can keep track of it, because the last thing we might want to do is line up 3 barges when we only need 1 barge.
Right.
But bottom line is we're looking at barges, okay? The barges have requirements. The barges has to be at least 40 by 60, and that's the minimum to do last year's show, which was a 5-inch shell show, okay? So we're trying to find someone that would offer up a barge, and if we can't get one for free, which is always the first choice, what that cost is going to be and what the permitting is going to be, because the permitting is going to be different when you're shooting off of a barge in the water than when you're shooting over the water off of land. So there's a lot more to be worked here. What I would ask, though, is everybody be patient. Let's work through it. We have to deal with the reality that we might not be able to do a show. Okay, that's a reality. The other reality is we're going to try to run down every lead we get until we get to that point. But if we have an opportunity, we may have to have a meeting to move pretty quick on a contract. Now, the contract that you all did act on is effectively voided out because it was 3 parties that needed to sign it. One of the parties won't sign it. So we're kind of done. I hate to say this way. We're kind of done with the Halifax company because they will not go on a barge.
Oh,
Only the company from Ohio will go on a barge. So we're still keeping them in the loop with what's going on. Be happy to take any questions you all have.
my only question is, should we begin thinking of alternatives for Independence Day celebration?
Other than fireworks?
Yeah.
That's
You
another
know,
thought.
something to.
A parade, a
festive.
picnic, something,
Well,
yeah.
I
yeah.
think we usually do. a
Right.
parade,
And-
But something.
I mean, fireworks are a big thing here in
Yeah, they
Urbana.
are.
And it's right up there with the Oyster Festival, in my opinion. People,
It's number
That's
2.
true.
lots of people come.
Just, I don't know whether the surrounding communities do, but the show that we had last year was a lot of 4 and 5-inch shells. And if you think about it, that's what is that? In terms of a diameter, that's 1,000 feet, 3 football fields of clear space to set off a 5-inch shell.
Wow.
The guy from Halifax had some 6-inch shells in his
He was going to do
program.
6-inch shells.
But,
Yeah.
you know, it's a moot point to talk about that, but that's a lot of open space that we're talking about, which really puts it in jeopardy. Some of the places that we looked at, like even across the bridge, in the space that would be, what would that be to the southeast, I guess?
Going out of town,
To-
it's on the right.
Out of town to the right. The people that looked at that said that 3-inch shells would be the best that they could do there, but that's in a spot where Larry would have a great view, but not many other people. Sorry, Larry. So anyhow,
We could all go to Larry's house.
we could all go.
Yeah.
All right, well, can y'all tell me how they do it at Deltaville when they bring tractor trailers, a flatbed into the ballpark? And they set them off with a flatbed. Now, how is that?
I
Well,
don't know.
I don't know what space that is, but they may be all 3-inch shells.
Well, that'd be okay too.
But those, then we still have to find a spot that's got
600.
100 yards to deal with.
Yeah.
Well, you got a
Table car.
5-mile wide river right there.
Yeah.
Well, that's where
Yeah.
you come
That's
back to
what
the
we're talking
barge.
about,
I mean,
the
that's where you come
Right,
back to
that's
the
where
barge
it goes
issue.
back to the barge.
I sent information from York County. They do it off of a barge. And it requires a tugboat, to move it around. But I sent that to Ted this afternoon, and then I'm going to, what is the marina? There's Sandy Point
Yeah.
Marina. They have
Maryland.
stuff like that. And
Well,
I'm-
Irvington does it, what do they do?
Yeah, I don't know, we need to check on that.
I've been told that Irvington used to do
Oh,
it,
they've stopped.
but it was Tides Ed did it.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
And they, for the insurance reasons,
Yeah, they stopped.
they had to stop, and somebody picked it up. Now, how,
Well,
you know,
I was thinking.
how rule minding they are, I don't, and it's the same thing for Deltaville. I don't know
Yeah.
how rule minding these other folks are.
Yeah, we're under some restraints maybe
Yeah.
that those folks are.
Well, even if they're not as spectacular as they've been in the past, and we had to back down to a smaller shell, I say we
Smaller
gotta
water.
have it.
You know.
Well, yeah, we just got to find a place to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Michelle? Treasurer's report?
Okay, so this meeting, we're looking at the January 31st, 2023. And you'll see that I have moved some money around. We put it all in certificates of deposit, 11-month. We do have a penalty-free withdrawal. So that was a good thing. We're on track. I think for April 11th or so will be our first interest payment. So when that happens, or when I can see the forecast, I'll let you know what to expect. For the lodging tax, December was way low, but you will see in January that it shot up to like double the normal because it came in the following month with the holidays, and I took a few days off. Same with the meals tax, and the water is the water. So unless you have some kind of question for me in regards to my report.
Yeah, something that I think it's important to point out, which we had talked about, I'm pleased to say that the Tabor Fund keeps going up. We were at, if you look on the account balances, January of '23, we were at 871, which was up, we got as low as in the sevens someplace when there was a dip in the market. At the end of the year, we were at 932. As of the end of business yesterday, we were at 962.
Wow.
Correct, but
So, and the money that we moved into different accounts in last May, so it's been less than a year, those accounts are up 25%.
That's amazing.
So,
It's great.
Good job.
Good work,
Michelle, on
Michelle.
that.
well, the Tabor Fund was those guys. The only other thing that I would like to mention while I have the floor is the military banners. Please push them. For some reason this year, usually by this point, I'm getting really close to being sold out, and I am not. So it's a little scary that it's possible we may only have one street filled with military versus two. So if you can help me spread the word, April 15th is the deadline for the new batch,
And what is the cost again?
125.
That after this, that they take them home with them after that, don't they? They
Correct. So what'll happen is this new batch will go up for the 4th of July, and they'll be up until Oyster Festival. They'll come down. We keep them down through the winter so that they do not get damaged. And they're going to go up here shortly now that the days are getting nice, and they'll stay up until June. And then that's when they come down. The new batch would go up. We'd do the dedication and the formal ceremony for the new banner holders. But I have until April.
I see 99% of the real estate tax has been collected. So it says,
what's the question?
I see 99% of the real estate tax has been collected.
Oh, that was on my next page. Yes, we're doing pretty good. That's okay. Made an effort through search engines and all, and I did collect some delinquent. Being that March is the end of the quarter, even though I'll be reporting February's next time because we're that month behind now, I can give you, a really good look at where we are. Personal property tax is still a challenge, but the real estate, we're pretty close.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
All right. Water Committee, there's no real formal Water Committee. We're looking for a date because there are some issues that we need to discuss going forward. But to bring everybody up to speed as to where we are with respect to water, we have engaged Kimley Horn to put out Phase 2 bid packets so that we can get that done. One thing that's going to need to go to finance and is sort of overlapping with finance is the fact that depending on what timeline develops with Phase 2 is we now have a productive well, but we have to put a pump in it and we have to pipe it to a structure and bring all of the supporting structures and fencing up to speed. So it's getting it functional now that we have a good hole. That being said, depending on the timeline as the bids come in, we may need to extend the financing, the interim loan, or it's possible that there may be a ruling by its VDH, I think that's got the bond. We may ask them for what do you call it, substantial completion ruling that would allow us to take the money to finish the second phase. But that's where we are, waiting for bid packages to be developed so that we can get the second part done. Anybody got any questions on that? Did you have anything to add to that, Ted, or are we good? Okay. Finance. The Finance Committee has been fairly active. We did get 3 bids finally in for the trash service. They were spread out with their services and their prices, and so Mr. Costin has asked for clarification on some of the things so that we can actually make apple-to-apple comparisons because of what they included, whether it was seasonal twice a week versus only one time a week, whether they included other services in there in terms of community cleanup and those kinds of things. And so we're waiting for those to come back, but we do have some bids that look pretty good. And so we will report back probably at the next time we have a finance report. We have made the moves to go forward with the town hall closing. Don't have a settlement date yet, but title searches and title insurance and those things have been requested, and that will happen sometime in the near future. We did find a pool company that will do all of the pieces of management, chemistry, supplying the guards, and the price that we've been quoted for the summer is within the framework of the budget that we have put in the budget for costs. They have said that they are willing to work with local individuals to consider them for any positions that are available. And so the hope is that, especially since we haven't had a lot of response, that we can incorporate some local people in with this company, and that may help us build a functional in-town management going forward. But the good news is we have a company that, like I said, has met our budget requirements and is willing to take the whole thing on. So that's a real positive move there. We gave Franktronics the go-ahead for Phase 1 of the security cameras, and that's the pool in Tabor Park, Waterman's Park, and the water tower. And the committee also has started looking into a protocol for future Tabor fund usage and its replenishment, and this will give us a format to mitigate questions because we can sort of codify that, and it'll set us up so that we have some rules to follow going forward. And like I said, that's something that's under development. And lastly, our treasurer, because the bank franchise tax is tied to the rate of real estate tax. When we lowered the real estate tax recently, we also inadvertently, or should have been knowingly, lowered our bank franchise tax some. And so Michelle has asked for clarification of that calculation because it is money that's very useful to the town, and we want to know where it's going and what the deposits are and how they're figuring it. So anyhow, that's what I've got on finance. All right. Planning Commission.
Planning Commission, I am no longer Chair of Planning Commission. Lewis Hall is Chair of Planning Commission, and I know that there were minutes that, but from February, but the meeting was not able to be held on Tuesday this week because there was not a quorum.
That's correct. I just do, while you're under the planning commission, I just want to take a moment, let you know you have received an application that will be considered by the commission next month.
Ah.
And you've also, ideally, it will also roll into you all next month as well.
Good.
But you will have an zoning item for your next, if not your next meeting, certainly your meeting after that.
Okay.
Okay?
What kind of application?
Without getting into a public hearing,
I- for
it's
some
a
reason-
special use permit for opening a business.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I thought you were talking about another planning commission member. So- Okay, all right.
Point made. All right. Public comment. Do we have anybody signed up?
Yeah. Mr. Putney.
Mr. Putney, welcome back.
Good evening, Town Council. Meriwether Vaughn Putney Jr., 36 Meadow Lane, Urbanna, Virginia, for the record. Got a couple things real quick. Basically, looking at some old business. Things that have been brought up over the last year or so, and then kind of look to me, it hasn't been resolved, and I have missed a couple of the meetings, so if something's been done, then that's my fault. Real quick, back in July 22, the old utility poles through town, that was gonna be, all the wires gonna be taken down. That was supposed to happen. I don't think that's really been done, but that's a different, that's a Dominion Power thing, whatever. The kayak trail, the Blue Water Trail. Talked to Larry about that the other day. Haven't heard any more about that. I guess it's still in the works. But the other thing I had on there was the floating docks for the marina, but I guess I can scratch that one off. Back in 1022, sidewalks and curbs. Something's going to be done with those. I saw some repair, but I don't know that had all phases had been done. Back in October 23, the street sign replacements. I know y'all talked about that. Never heard any more whether they've been approved, ordered, whatever, but I may have missed a meeting, like I said. And then the biggie, I've been chomping on it a long time, the short-term rentals. That was brought up May 2023. I don't think that's ever gotten anywhere. And along with that, the ordinance that was changed, 17-4-6-2, that allowed the apartments on the ground floor in town. That was a biggie that I brought up several times. Haven't heard anything back on that as well. And I think that may be the end of my list. Yes, it is. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, would you like this? It's all
Sure.
about.
Yeah. And we'll get it to Martha. Yeah. So
Maybe
want to?
me to address some of those?
Yeah.
you can do it or I can do it. You might, go ahead.
You can fill in the gaps.
Would you like the document?
So,
If you miss something, I'll fill in the blank.
I think I took good notes. All right, we'll see here. Well, that staff report that I mentioned, I was going to skip over. Maybe on hindsight, I shouldn't have. One of the items on that was the short-term rental. So the town council did direct the planning commission to go back and revisit the short-term rental issue. And as we were getting into that, there has been a bill in the General Assembly that basically usurps local zoning authority and doesn't allow you to restrict those. okay? That bill narrowly passed the General Assembly in both houses. And I did speak to Delegate Hodges about it and let him know that we weren't too crazy about that bill. Anything that chops away at local zoning authority creates problems because people who complain about it come to me and come to you. And it's the General Assembly that's creating these situations. So that bill passed. Now, what needs to be figured out and we wait for is the governor going to sign it? If the governor doesn't sign it, then can it withstand, can it withstand the veto? Could it be overridden? So that one's still in process. But until we know what the General Assembly is going to do, then we'll know what we can or cannot do. So that's the short-term rental issue. The Dominion Power issue. Okay, so that is what I've also been working with the external affairs representative from Dominion. Her name is Melanie Rapp. That is a project that's been going on for about 3 years now. Dominion has moved all of their lines off. What's holding this up is Breeze Line with 2 or 3 poles throughout the whole town, most of which are over by Mr. Chuning that have some problems. There is one right at the corner of Virginia and Cross that, and we're making these arrangements today. The pavers have to be lifted out. It has to be dug out so that the conduit can be moved underground from one pole to the next. Once we clear that out, that pole will be done. The remaining poles for Breeze Line are over there. The huge holdup here is with Verizon, to the point that when I call them, I had to give them the project number. I had to go find the project number from Dominion to get Verizon to even figure out what file it was in. So that's going to be where the holdup is. Dominion also indicated that they did have 2 or 3 poles that they would have removed by the end of last month, and I'm still waiting to find out if those have been done. I don't think they've been done. So that's the Dominion Power. It's something, those power poles, we're working them. The kayak trail, I'm not as well versed on that. I know it's been a project that Mr. Chuning's been involved in. Sidewalk repair, most of the sidewalk repair has been done on the VDOT owned sidewalks. The town sidewalks, the mayor, when he was the acting administrator, did find a company that would do the work. We've got some price bids. Those are going to have to be put into the budget and worked in as a capital project. But that's kind of where they are. It's in the budget process right now. And I have to be honest with you, hearing about apartments on the ground floor, that's sort of the first time I've heard about that one. So we did. Okay.
We did.
I thought that was kind of tied up into the
No, they were two
short-term
separate
rental.
issues.
Okay.
They were 2 separate issues.
All right.
And we talked about language that could be changed in our current ordinances. If we struck certain terms, you had a great idea on terms that could be struck that we thought would accomplish what the planning commission wanted accomplished. So if you could look back at that again,
Okay,
that
I
would
will.
be good.
I will. I assumed it was all wrapped up into the same. Okay, that's what I've got. If you've got anything else you can add, please.
Well, yeah, and sidewalks, there was a couple of phases that years ago we did phase 1. The budget we didn't have it in the budget to do phase 2, but as Mr. Costin said, I reached out to the company that did the other phases, and they came out in like August, September territory, I think, and gave us a bid that needs to be incorporated in the budget. So we've got a price that's good for a year, and it can get into the next budget cycle to move that on. When it comes to the street signs, if you look at the packet, there was something that I found, which was an ordinance that the county passed, I think, in 2013, I think is what I said, in April 2013, that said that they were using 911 funds to do the street signs in the county, and that it affected everyone except Urbanna, unless we accepted basically their ordinance or had an ordinance that met their requirements. And on the docket for tonight is advertising to allow that ordinance, so the county will replace our street signs. So that's already in the works, and it just took a little while to get the wording for our ordinance so that we're still protected and the county pays for the signs. So our signs will look like their signs, and that's where that stands. Sidewalks, what was the other one? I'm missing a fifth one.
Okay.
Kayak trail. Kayak trail, I've had conversations with Kurt Smith, and I can't remember the woman who runs the website, but those items are up on the Virginia Waterways website. It's just not friendly to get there. I've complained to them and talked about it to try and make it more user-friendly, because to get there, you have to go through multiple phases, and you have to go into Middlesex, and when the map of Middlesex comes up, the only item on the map that shows up is actually Larry's pictures and items, but you scroll up. However, when you click on those on a phone, you get letters the size of my hand that fill the screen, because by the time you've pulled it up like that, it's not very useful on a phone. And they say they're working on it, but I have tried to, poke them periodically, because the information is all there. If you got a tablet, you could pull it up and read the things. You can't look at the picture at the same time you're reading it, and so you have to go back and forth. So it's not user-friendly, but it's all there, okay? With the coordinates and that kind of stuff, so
What about the signage that we've talked about? We need signage or a kiosk or something.
Down there,
that
yeah.
highlights it, that says, hey, here's this thing, and maybe a QR code for people to pull up and.
right. Well,
Agree with
and,
that.
and part of the problem there is that it gets really frustrating, I think, if you put up something to send somebody to someplace and then they can't use it. So it'd be nice to have something that they don't get frustrated with,
Yeah.
but you can always put
It's
it up.
sort of a work in progress.
It's a work in progress,
Okay.
but
And-
it is slowly
And
moving
The mayor
forward.
has been proactive in trying to get it straight.
Okay, good.
Additionally, they do have I can't remember the term for it, but they're developing something for Virginia Waterways. And because of the,
Cinnamon, something,
sizzle,
something.
so, anyhow, they have a term for it. But because Larry was kind enough to do the footwork, when it comes to their overarching thing that they use to show what Middle Peninsula and Virginia waterways are like, Urbanna Creek is going to be the focus of the demo, if you will. So we're getting some traction.
And they've gotten a grant, and they've already talked to several companies, and they're gonna have somebody, like a movie type thing, where somebody is reading it. And the other thing is, when we started the kayak trail, it was in 3 phases. It was in beginner, which was up that part of the creek, one towards Saluda, intermediate, and then the other was, can't remember. the term.
Advanced?
I think it was
Advanced, it was
advanced.
advanced. I've almost finished the advanced part of it, so that'll just leave the beginner part of it. And I think that the mayor has gotten Kurt Smith and others on track, that this is something they want to do. And they're envisioning that, we're gonna be the pilot program for everybody else, so we're gonna get it first.
That's great. Where are we with renewing the kayak rental agreement for down at the marina,
Yeah,
the kayak kiosk?
I don't think.
And relocating it so that
Yeah.
it's in a much better location.
Right.
Is that something we can look at? Okay. I know a number of times I'd asked for stats on rentals, which could not have been a lot because of the small amount of revenue that came in.
Yeah, I think that it was minimal.
It was minimal, but again, given the location, it was buried in the middle of the kayak storage over there. I think if it was in an area that's closer to the water, closer hopefully to signage for the Blue Water Trail, I think that could change.
Yeah, it's in a bad place.
Yes, it does, it does.
Yeah.
It's not on our website, is it?
No,
So all that, it's a work in
it
progress.
is,
The advanced part is gonna include Perkins and Robinson's Creek.
cool.
And so, I think things are gonna really move as a Middle Peninsula Regional Planning District gets more involved in this.
Right, and I did talk to Dave Lipscomb about putting the kayak trail on a link, try
Yeah.
to get it more direct on our website.
That's what you need to do.
But just in getting there myself, it's so unfriendly that I didn't want it to be a black eye and have cause people more frustration than it was worth. And so, like I said, I've reached out to them a couple of times, had email strings with them to try and develop it so we can get it a little more user-friendly so that people don't just get frustrated with it.
The problem hasn't been our fault. You know, we've given them everything they need to do
Right.
what they need to do. But, you know, I don't think they've had this before, either with all the other. So it's,
All right. Anybody else got any comment? Move it.
The apartments on the bottom,
Yeah.
that ordinance 17 dash.
That, the planning commission is looking at that, like Mary said, and there's some, Mr. Costin had pointed out some simple changes to the verbiage that might address some of those things, but that B1 ordinance needs to be reworked anyway because of some of the conflicts that are in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Old business. Bad check fees.
council comments.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Council comments?
That's what we just did.
You got more to say?
Yeah.
He's got more to
I
say.
wanted to say that I went to the fire department's dinner, Washington dinner, and I thought that was mighty nice. And I saw
Yeah.
Beth, I saw Marjorie there. And I did attend that PTA, Public Access Authority meeting, and I see we got a grant writer. And I was just wondering how we're paying for that. I had heard that it was gonna cost $10,000 for Urbanna, and that, half of that was gonna be paid by the county. Is it
Right. I think our hit is $5,000.
$5,000. So the county is paying half of
So
it?
let me make that update. We've asked for, the offer was made, and we've asked for that offer to be forwarded. But the other factor here is the numbers are all going to go up a little bit because one of the localities did not participate. So everybody's going to pick up a little bit more than that. But it would certainly be less than 10,000 for us, but not quite the 5 that we were hoping for.
It's huge at the county.
Yeah. I've already had conversations with her and have already been pointing her, and she's been pointing me in different directions on several items.
Have you talked to Matt Walker?
Oh, yeah, talk to Matt all the time.
Okay,
Yeah.
good enough.
Okay.
Thank you, that's all I had. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I
That's
didn't
all right.
realize we were moving on.
That's all right. All right. Next is the bad check ordinance that we discussed before. The recommendation is that we adopt the proposed adjustment of the current bad check fee from 20 up to 50, which is what the state allows. We can't go above it. It doesn't happen very frequently, but we want the ability to recoup some of our costs for following these people down. I think most of the people in this room have been in a spot where they were faced with some of this stuff, and so we don't want to be insensitive, but we do want to have some ability to at least mitigate our costs. So, anything that either of you needed to say with regard to that?
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? All right, we've got a sample motion before us, if someone would like to.
I move to adopt ordinance number 2024-01 to increase the bad check fee from $20 to $50 with monies collected to be credited to the general fund.
Do I have a second for that?
I second the motion.
All right, do we have some discussion? And as is pointed out, you know, $50 is the max. Things are going up. And we could make it lower, but we certainly want to have it higher than the 20. I think it's fine, as little infrequently as we do it, to just leave it the way the motion is made.
Well, and my recollection is that we don't have to charge 50, but we
Yes.
could charge 50.
You could.
You do.
We do have
If
to
it
charge
says
50?
50, you charge 50.
Okay,
If you want
Okay.
to charge less, put
And-
a lower number in.
And we
I
can't
see.
raise
I
it.
see.
We could lower it with just a vote at a future time, right?
No, that's, she's
No.
saying no.
No.
Well, you'd have to
She said no.
re-advertise it.
Well, right, but,
Okay.
but without going through the whole process, you couldn't raise it. Right now, we can't raise it anyway.
You can't raise it over 50. 'cause
Over
that's
50,
your-
right.
That's your state max, and
Right.
that's what you've advertised.
Right,
In your motion tonight, you could make it 40, anything less than 50.
right.
But you cannot, once, I think.
Lock it in, that we gotta go through the whole
The
process.
attorney's saying is,
Just
once you,
I-
your
I can-
statute says
I got it.
45,
Fine.
Yeah.
you can't go to 47,
Yeah.
43.
Right, yep, exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
So the motion is made and seconded. Any other discussion? All right,
So did you want the $50?
Yes.
yes.
You do,
That was
okay.
the motion, wasn't it?
Yep,
Wasn't
that's,
the
that's the way the motion is.
Yeah, I heard the motion.
All right. Sandy?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
I say yes. Larry?
No.
All right. Beth?
Yes.
All right. That
Mayor?
passes 4-1.
Okay.
All right. Now, the next one, addressing one of the things that Mr. Putney brought up, is the street sign ordinances, as we previously discussed in response.
And
We can get the,
We just realized that the actual ordinance wasn't.
Wasn't in there?
packet, And so
Okay.
there's a red line and a clean copy for you. It is exactly what you've seen before.
Right.
It mirrors what Middlesex County has. And then the only thing that's new is that we're repealing what we have right now in our code to replace it with this. And the request tonight is for authority to advertise.
right, so to get this ball rolling, to let the county buy us street signs, we need to authorize the public hearing and the advertising for public hearing, which is what the motion is, so that we can move this forward and get new street signs.
You ready?
All right? Can I have a motion?
I move to authorize a public hearing on the proposed sign ordinance for the April 11th meeting of the Urbana Town Council.
Do I have a second on that?
A second.
Motion is moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right. Beth Justice,
Yes.
Larry Tuning,
Yes.
I say yes. Mary Hanson?
Yes.
Sandy Sturgeon?
Yes.
All right, so that, we can get moving on that. And that finishes agenda items. Do we have any new business? All right. Any other public comment? Nope. Announcements. Wow, okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
A
Second? All right, Beth Justice?
Yes.
Larry Tuning?
Yes.
I say yes. Mary Hanson?
Yes.
Sandy Sturgill?
Yes.
Thank you, one and all.